On this episode of the Rich Ad Poor Ad podcast, we had a very special guest, Keith Krance, who is the founder and CEO of Dominate Web Media, who is easily responsible of spending hundreds of millions of dollars across Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube with the everlasting ad. When it comes down to it, we create a script that is usable across each channel or platform that you can kind of really maximize results there and reuse it to where he's had clients use it for years. And hey, he's using some of his own medicine and kind of doing the same thing to where he has his funnels running year-round, kind of more of the evergreen style. We also kind of dive into, writing copy on, how the products or services really make your kind of prospects feel to kind of really, help them get over that next step to essentially convert on your offer or a service there. Make sure to tune in because this one's a juicy one.
I say after 300 million in ad spend on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales in over 100 industries, I'll tell you the number one reason why less than 3% of us consistently have success. So in that sentence, I call it a contextual call out. I've called out, I'm looking for businesses that want to grow, but I also mentioned ad spend, so they know, if there's somebody that's just looking to grow the productivity, they're going to hit skip ad on YouTube, or they're going to ignore on Facebook, and that's totally fine. Because on YouTube, we want them to skip ad if they're not in our avatar. Super important.
You're listening to the Rich Ad Poor Ad podcast, where we break down the financial principles that rich advertisers are deploying today to turn advertising into profit and get tons of traffic to their websites without killing their cash. These advertisers, agencies, affiliates, brands are responsible for managing over $1 billion a year in ad spend. You'll hear about what's working for them today, their rich ads, and we'll roast their epic failures and crappy ads on the internet with poor ads. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Rich Ad Poor Ad podcast. This is your host, Zach Johnson. I'm with the one and only Dylan Carpenter. You excited for today's guest, Dylan?
Oh yeah, man. We have quite a character with a cool backstory, so I'm pumped for this one.
Yeah, today's guest is the author of the best-selling book on Facebook advertising called The Ultimate Guide to Facebook Advertising. He's an OG. He's the original OG host of Perpetual Traffic, published by Digital Marketer, which is an awesome podcast, and also the founder of Dominate Web Media, which I would say is probably one of the first flagship Facebook ad agencies that then went on to sell a ton of Facebook ad education courses and certifications and coaching programs and agency training. And there's a ton of really successful Facebook ad agencies in our ecosystem today that really came out and were born out of Keith's training over at Dominant Web Media. So the guy's, probably overseen hundreds of millions of dollars in Facebook and Instagram ad spend. And today we're going to be diving into it. I love it. I'm super excited. So without further ado, Keith Krance, cool. Man, welcome to the show.
Glad to be on. I'm excited. It should be fun. Good times.
Yeah, man. So for everybody that's listening to the show, give everybody a little bit about, I just kind of went through 7 years of history of your career, but get everybody up to speed about what you're doing right now and what you're working on these days.
Yeah, no problem. No, it's been crazy. I've been doing this for a long time. Got started in 2010, I guess, 11. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people that are OGs more than that. But before that, I went to college to become an airline pilot, and then transitioned into my entrepreneurial world in about 2003. While I was still a pilot, that's when the entrepreneurial spirit kicked in. Realized I didn't want to be I was basically a prisoner of my seniority number flying airplanes. Just cog in a wheel, I felt like. So that led me into entrepreneurship and owning some local businesses, and really, I think having that experience of having local businesses and one of the top number two and number 5 franchise out of about 60 locations, and back then, and that's what led me to really seeing the opportunity of the ad platform early on. And so, fast forward to, like you said, second edition, third edition, Ultimate Guide, hosting the podcast for all these years and really building an agency, but also selling courses and coaching with all these clients. What I've realized is that I started looking back at all of the most successful campaigns, like David Ogilvy. If you go back and search David Ogilvy in the archives of YouTube, you can find him talking, having some interviews and talking about like, here's a good ad right here. This ran for about 20 years, right?
Oh, wow.
20-year ad. And that's more, a lot of those are branding ads. So it's a lot, the repetition is key. They're not direct response. But they would really integrate that direct response with branding. And so I started looking back and I started really auditing all of our best campaigns. And now, at this point, we're probably at $250 million in ad spend total of personal clients. Okay. These are agency clients where we're managing their ads, or private clients where we're getting on calls with, not our courses. That doesn't include our certified guys and their clients, our students, and their ad spend. That's just personal private clients. And that's just every industry you can imagine. Half of that is in e-com, physical products, half of that is in digital products, probably. And then there's within that, there's local service-based businesses, all these different industries we've worked in. It's so crazy over the years. And so I started looking back, and it was like, this method, where you can take the pillars of, I kind of realized it's basically 4 pillars, and it's leveraging direct response advertising, content marketing, social media marketing, brand awareness, and brand recognition, and then viral marketing, viral video marketing. And I started realizing that, okay, you don't have to have a funny, super funny, like squatty potty type of video to leverage from the virality. Right. You can actually take from the book Contagious, one of my favorite books. I always tell people to read every year if you're a direct response marketer, or if you're a big brand, either way. Understanding that these 6 principles of why things go viral, why things catch on, it doesn't have to always be super funny and super emotional and awe-inspiring. It can actually just be something that's almost like a utility, right? It's just a tangible aha moment and a tip somebody just wants to tell their friend about, and wants to tag a friend, or wants to save your ad instead of hide your ad. Or it can just be something that, I'm the first person to know about, and so I want to tell somebody else about that and tag a friend or make a comment on it. So if you start to understand some of this stuff, okay, now my ads on social, this element that isn't as effective on YouTube in terms of the shareability, because you don't really get the benefit from the engagement stats on YouTube ads like you do on Facebook and Instagram. But the other thing that it does is it builds trust, right? And it builds credibility. And so when people click on your ad, they show up on your landing page with their guard down instead of their guard up. And so we get higher conversion rates, we get higher show up rates on webinars, we get longer watch times, and we get higher sales conversion rates, right? And higher average order values.
I feel like your formulas, Keith, are like, I feel like your background as a pilot is what makes your marketing checklists and processes like so solid. Like I've seen, been part of a lot of communities, a lot of Facebook ad programs, things like that. But the checklist that you have to create and you have to like go through with a pilot is so detailed, and it's so routine that it definitely shows, when you're creating your formulas, when you're presenting and educating on your formulas, that it's really well thought through, and I can't quite say the same for myself, but I just wanted to give you a little shout out on that front.
No, I appreciate it. It's when I take the time to really, really go through something, and I went through about a 6-month period about a year and a half ago, so not that long ago, 2019, and really flushed this process out. And I looked back, like I said, and audited everything. And I used to call it like the 3-step video ad formula, but we've really, really now pulled everything out and really pulled out the core DNA. It's basically, it's sort of like, imagine if you could extract the DNA code of the marketing legends, like the direct response marketing legends, like Eugene Schwartz, Claude Hopkins, Ogilvy, Caples, Gary Halbert, Collier, Sugarman, Kennedy, Carlton, and all the modern greats I don't need to list. And then the content marketing, social media marketing greats like Brian Clark, Joe Paluzzi, Jay Baer, Gary Vaynerchuk, Michael Stelzner, Amy Porterfield, HubSpot, John Lee Dumas, Pat Flynn, the list goes on. And then the brand advertising greats like Nike, like even what Red Bull's doing, what GoPro is doing. And then one of my mentors is Roy H. Williams, who's some of his strategies or clients are responsible for the majority of the jewelry sales in North America. And then also the viral video sensations, right? Like Dollar Shave Club, Squatty Potty, Poopery, Chatbooks. Good friend of mine launched a viral video. I saw it go from basically a brand new business, a Dollar Beard Club. The original viral video was kind of a spoof off of the Dollar Shave Club. And he literally went from a brand new startup doing a few $1,000s a day to $1 million a month after one viral video.
So if you were to consolidate all of that into one single rich ad, it just accumulates and represents everything.
Yep.
What is this rich ad that we're going to go into?
So we call it the everlasting ad, and the Emerald method is the 4 pillars, combining them. And what it does is it gives you the ability to create what I call an everlasting ad, one good ad that you can run on any platform. You get one good script. Now you have a video you can run on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. But put together some basic banner retargeting. So when after they see your content, they don't buy, then they're going to see you everywhere on all the news sites. What's Trump doing next? They're going to see your ad on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, or whatever channel you're checking out. So basically, we want to make it so it will work on all these platforms, and then it goes back to those 4 pillars. And what I've done is basically sort of also dug deep, and it's really a 3-act structure to do this. And we have about 12 or 13 kind of core elements. I'm not going to go through all those right now. It's I think it would kind of go down too much of a rabbit hole. But there essentially is a 3-act structure, and we have 12 or 13 core elements, and I call them ad building blocks. And so we have all these scripts that we've now built out where you can see how some of these ad building blocks, for example, in Act 1, we need to, that first 5 or 10 seconds, we need to make sure, if it's a video, that you not only get their attention, but we can call out the avatar we're going after in a natural way. It's non-douchey. I don't know if I can say that, but it's basically what you're saying kind of catches their attention. But if somebody's watching that, they know that if you're targeting business owners that want to grow their business, or somebody that wants to improve their lifespan or lose weight, they're going to know that by your opening ad, right? And so then a lot of times we want to make sure and have that big promise in the first 5 or 10 seconds, that like not necessarily digging into the big challenges and frustration always right away, but really what is the ultimate perfect scenario. And if we can show that in the opening, sometimes, especially if we can use it, a lot of times we use a proof or credibility story. And so, for example, if you want, I can read it. I'll pull up one of these scripts, and I can read it. I can read the opening of this, and this can be a video, or this can be. A lot of times we tell people just to test this as a long copy ad on Facebook, right? And then if it works out, then you can go and you can make a video. It doesn't have to be highly produced. It could be an iPhone video. But one of them that we've got running right now that's working really well across platforms is, I say after 300 million in ad spend on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales in over 100 industries, I'll tell you the number one reason why less than 3% of us consistently have success. So in that sentence, I've basically, I call it a contextual call out. I've called out, I'm looking for businesses that want to grow, but I also mentioned ad spend, so they know, if there's somebody that's just looking to grow the productivity, they're going to hit skip ad on YouTube, or they're going to ignore on Facebook, and that's totally fine. Because on YouTube, we want them to skip ad if they're not in our avatar. Super important. I've got the big promise in there, right? Basically generating hundreds of millions of dollars, credibility, authority, 300 million in ad spend in 100 industries. And then I also have a curiosity hook. the number one reason why less than 3% of us consistently have success. So those are four. I literally have four of my elements all in the first 5 seconds. And then so I'll read the next two paragraphs in this one. So I say, my clients are breaking sales records, selling everything from online courses to music to consulting to physical products to local services to real estate and everything in between. So now I've kind of really called out my avatar without saying, attention business owners or attention homeowners. Are you looking to sell your house? Or are you looking to grow your business? That's lame. We don't want to do that. You wouldn't do that if you walked into a party, right? You wouldn't say, attention homeowners. If you're a real estate agent, you walked into a house full of homeowners, you talk to people naturally. So then the third paragraph on this one, I won't go any further, is, and then I say, my clients are breaking sales records, yada, yada, yada. Like Ryan here, who started a business selling a $67 digital product last summer and is now doing over $1 million a month by running the same one Emerald Method ad on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube directly to his product sales page without any upsells. And then I show a screenshot of him saying, thanks, we did $1 million last month, right? At the same time. So that, and then I go in and that's act one in that one. And then sometimes we'll go in and we'll dig in and we'll give a little more proof, or we'll go in and we'll map out our process. Especially if it's on Facebook, it really works well sometimes, mapping out our unique mechanism or our unique method and giving them an outline of it maybe, but then another reason for them to go watch a webinar to get more, or check out our product page to have it, to get it all done for you, or something like that. So that's one opening. Mm-hmm. And if you want, I'll give you one other sort of opening so you can see how we slightly adjust it a little bit. And this one, let's see. So this one, very similar. But I open up, in this case, one of my elements is proof story, right? And that's one of our core 12, 13 elements. And this one, I open up with the proof story. This is Esther. She uses one ad that runs in Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to sell country music albums. And then it plays a clip of her saying, this has been a complete game changer in our business, a 100% game changer. And then I'm on the call with her, right? She's talking to me, and then it goes back to me. And I say, she's spending $500 a day and generates about $1,000 in music sales every single day. Music that people can get online for free. She does this using a unique ad method that I call the Emerald ad, that you can learn more about if you click the button you see somewhere on this video or in this post, and I'll show you how it works. Like Ryan here, yada, yada. So that one was a slightly different. But the thing is when you do the work and you go through the exercises and you start to really build out your proof stories, your big promise, your unique mechanism, your unique process, you map out your core unique process. A lot of times people don't want to show that in their ad. On Facebook, a lot of times we give away more in many cases, because the shareability factor, the viral factor, sends that signal to the algorithm that people like your ads. Guess what happens? You know this. Facebook rewards you. They drive your cost. Yeah. So, and you also build more trust. So, and sometimes we don't go as much into the unique process on YouTube, but sometimes we do. It just kind of depends. And then you go in and act two is really maybe going into the unique process or digging a little bit more into the challenges without, or benefits without challenge, right? Benefits without frustration, soft call to action. And then, maybe going into a little bit more of proof story or your unique mechanism or credibility, and then call to action, and then maybe a couple other elements that we like to include, but it doesn't have to be in in every video if possible. Things like overcoming self-belief issues. Like it's not your fault. You're an expert, so it's easy for you, right? Or shoot, this one. But that self-belief is a big one. And so if they think I can do this, then it really makes people want to take action. Not everybody has the same thing. So when you're selling a physical product that's more of a commodity-based item like clothing or apparel, it's a little different story. And those kind of ads, what you're going to do is you're going to focus a little bit more on your belief system and what your product, how your product makes people feel, right? Nike honors great athletes. And a lot of people have modeled that, and it works really well. It's a little bit more of a longer term approach, and it's a little more challenging. If you sell physical products and you sell supplements or a lot of those types of things, it's a little easier because it still is a little bit more problem solution, and you can follow a similar method that I just gave. But anyway, that's sort of the overview of the method. Act one is get their attention, but do it in a way where the call out of the business is contextual. It's just part of your conversation. You know what I mean? Instead of just calling them out, and then you go into some of these other elements, and it's. I
love how we just broke down a rich ad campaign, and we didn't even talk about creative. We didn't talk about manual or automated bids or CBO. Like I love how foundational this is.
Yeah, it's so many people get so excited. And if you want to talk on that stuff, we could talk all day long, right? We have a 3-phase process basically for managing ads. You want to test and find out what best audiences, best creatives, and then as you start to learn, we want to start leveraging that algorithm and start really using things like campaign budget optimization and larger audiences and bigger lookalikes and letting the algorithm kind of do its magic using only your best ads and your best audiences and starting to get into some more of the advanced bidding. But we're not going to go into that because I see 98% of people out there, that's what they're focusing on. And they're just trying to over optimize crap, right? Ads that are maybe not crap. A lot of times the ads are actually average or above average. You know what I mean? Like you have a direct response copywriter who's writing an ad who thinks it's a really good ad because they've been a copywriter for 10 or 15 years, but they don't actually realize that the social media landscape is different. It's changed. The way we communicate has changed. Like I said, those kind of attention getters, they just don't work anymore like they used to. And I still see people doing it all the time because they don't know what they don't know. You have a good copywriter or a guru out there who has a super dialed in offer and funnel, or maybe has a really, really dialed in back end email follow-up sequence or high pressure sales system. And so they're using ads that are just average and they're paying high cost per click and they're still making a lot of money. And so you have all these other people that are out there and they're seeing these gurus out there that are running ads thinking that that's the type of ad they should run. But really, it's not the ad that's doing very well. Those gurus out there could be getting cost per leads and cost per purchases for probably half of what they are. I bet you, because they're not following this kind of method that I'm talking about. And so, the other thing too is that a lot of people ask if you're going to do video, should it be short? We've kind of seen the sweet spot being about 3 to 6 minutes. Definitely not minute and a half like a lot of people talk about out there talking about YouTube ads and video ads. Sometimes, like our best ad right now currently for our funnel is on Facebook is 1 minute and 51. But on YouTube, that same ad is running and our 4 minute and 26 around there, 4 minute and 20 seconds is the best performer. And on Facebook, that's actually outperforming as well. But for some reason on Facebook with this campaign, the 1 minute and 51 is working best because 80% of the impressions are coming from Instagram and it's doing well on Instagram for some reason right now. And so it's a lot of times I've got a client or a friend of mine now used to be a coaching client, and they're booking about 28 to 30 appointments per day in the real estate investment space. And they're using about a 4.5, almost 5 minute video ad. Some of our like 10X cases, 7 minute video ad, 8 minute video ad. Sometimes it was a 7 minute that followed all this formula. And then they kind of redid it maybe a year later. And now they got it down to 3 or 4 minutes and it performs a little bit better too. So sometimes you can do it all in under 2 minutes and it will be your best performer, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's my point. Especially when you kind of add that call to action, you add a soft call to action in maybe 30 seconds or a minute. You know what I mean? So the rest is gravy.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Funnel Dash's Ad Card, the only charge card exclusively for your digital ad spend. And if you're an ad agency that manages 7 or even 8 figures a year in media and ad spend for your clients, and you're looking to double your profits over the next 6 to 12 months, then check out Ad Card. See, the typical agency model is this. You charge 10% of your spend, you make 10 to 20% margin at the end of the day. So that's really 1 to 2% of your client's spend that is profit in your business. The easiest way to double that is to really find a way to earn in that 1 to 2% cash back of the card that is on file of your client's ad account. And before ad card, what you had to do was invoice all your clients for their ad spend up front, which is really difficult on a cash flow basis and very difficult ask. And then you had to put the card on your own Amex or whatever card of choice to get that level of value back into your business. With ad card, it's entirely different and streamlined. You simply get your clients on ad card and make yourself the agency of record, and you'll get the cash back as long as you're managing the ad spend. It's a great way to double your profit without doing any additional work. Check it out at funneldash.com.
So I want to hear about a poor ad, man. I want to know of all the hundreds of millions of campaigns that you've touched. I want to know what's bombed.
Okay, so good question. I would say, with our, it's kind of weird, is with our stuff, my own ads, our issue has always been our back end, like product development, not keeping up. Okay, we got an ad that's working really well, and then we have to stop it because I've got to redo a course because Facebook is outdated, right? Changing everything. And then I do that, and then I'm like working on a webinar for like 4 or 5 months. And so for us, it's kind of weird. I think we've always had, this sounds kind of like, not even like somebody would think this is like arrogant or something, but I can't actually remember an ad that I've actually put time in, like, and like, because we put a lot of time into to writing one good ad that actually hasn't knocked it out of the park right out of the gate and done really well. And then you start to add some layers to that because they will sometimes slow down. So if you add different ads that will resonate with different types of people, it will help once you get that foundational superstar ad running. But I would say that for us, though, the most times we've seen poor ads is when we didn't have, or a lot of client situations where they didn't have a cash flow funnel. They didn't have a system that was evergreen, that was really able to generate cash flow in that first 24 hours. That makes sense. So the pricing was off. A lot of times if I just look at customers and clients that have come in, mostly we obviously have to rework the story and follow that method I talked about and, get something good running on the creative. But in general, for us, if it's like, okay, I don't have a webinar ready, so I can't sell our, $1,000 program and we've got only one upsell, so we can't afford to keep running this. You know what I mean? We're getting customers for $15, but we have to turn it off. And so, like I said, for me, it's more been that of an issue up until recently. But in general, I would say the biggest problem I see is not having that cash flow generated, not having the right price point. So what people will do is they maybe are targeting a mass appeal audience. So they're in a end consumer, maybe it's a health and wellness, maybe it's a hobby based, maybe it's around anxiety or something like that. And they're selling $150 product for 200, or maybe even 100 is too much in some cases. And so their price point's a little bit too high, or they're in, because that's different than a B2B. For you and me, we're targeting people that want to grow their business. $100, $200, $300 upsell after a $7 product, or after a lead magnet, or after even a $49 or $99 front end product is totally fine. But if you're in a mass appeal, you much better to have a lower price and a lot of volume, a lot of products, than it is to have a little higher price. Or people are trying to use like this long email sequence, or to sell a membership, which doesn't generate a lot of cash flow.
I feel like you see a lot of those right now, right? Because, and this is also a great segue into our next segment where we're really talking about cash flow and financial principles for advertising.
Sure.
Is we talk about payback periods of 30 days, right? Most people, that's kind of their rule of thumb because that's their, they run payroll every 30 days.
but you're saying 24 hours, right? Which is even more specific and more aggressive. And why, two-part question, I guess.
Sure.
One, why 24 hours? And then two, what do you think about a lot of these challenger funnels that are, popping up where they're like week or 2 week long challenges over pretty much an email course.
Yeah.
And then they're having offers on the back end and they convert like crazy, like lead to sale conversion is amazing.
So,
But how does it really fit your world?
100%. Great question. So the launch model is one of the things where I've had so many people that come in there, like they're in a big launch mastermind or something like that. And then they're just growing. They have to grow it organically, right? Because they can't run ads to a launch unless they're 2 weeks, like basically 2 weeks out or less. And then even when they do that, you're still running ads and not getting any revenue, right? Until after the launch closes. And so you've got to have some capital. So if that's your model, you need some capital, like ad capital, right? Like what you guys have. But one of the things to help get around that is that if somebody's in the launch model, the traditional, like the PLF 3-4 video series, and they're doing a live launch 2 times a year, I'm not talking about the challenge launch yet, and I'll get on that in just a sec. But if they're in the launch model, what I try to get them to do is to try to create an evergreen funnel that they can run between launches. So maybe they're selling basically just a digital version of that product that doesn't include the coaching, and you're selling it for a third to half the price. And you've got maybe a front end, low price, $27 front end or $7 or $9, something like that. So you've got a kind of an upsell funnel that's running all year round. And then when you get to your launch, you have more customers and more leads, and it still doesn't cannibalize it. So that's one thing that's been a game changer. I've seen businesses literally 10x in 1 year by doing that. Guys, they're people that are executing, on the challenge model. Here's it's the same thing. It's like you have to build it up organically. If you're going to run ads, you need to have a lot of cash in the bank, or we're going to do a challenge launch, and we're going to try it. But my plan is basically just going to do it because we want to kind of relaunch one of our front end courses, and then I'm just going to sell it using an evergreen webinar after that, because that's more of a cash flow model, right? Because but in the meantime, we have this conundrum that you just mentioned, right? So a launch is a month away. So for me, if I'm going to do a challenge launch, I'm going to set up 2 upsells going into that. So it's either going to be a free challenge, and then, hey, for $99, you can keep the recordings, or for $49, you can keep the recordings. And then another upsell. Maybe you got a $99 upsell for a coaching call or for some other product.
I feel like Mike Filsame's done a really good job with this with GrooveFunnels, right? Because it's like you go to groovefunnels.com, you get a freemium software account, but the upsell is the affiliate offer, right? Like, hey, pay, XYZ dollars to become an affiliate. And I think that's really, I think it's really solid where you can still have that solid, like, free front end, but some more tactical and cross sells that make all the sense in the world. So talk to me about cash flow. So 24 hours. I love stuff that's like paying back within 24 hours.
Yep.
And it's actually, yes, cash flow is a big one. I also just like the efficiency of the capital, right? Because generally that requires you to be at a lower price point, sub $100 to be ROIing within 24 hours. And not only do you get more cycles, right? You talked about working on a webinar for 5 months before, you're only going to go through, one to maybe 4 cycles of a webinar a month. And because you got to do a re-record, you got to do new slides. Like there's a ton of work that goes into optimizing those.
Yes.
And why I think it takes years for people to get them dialed in. When you're at that low price point, you're 24 hours. It's the difference between $2,000 right on a webinar. I got to go spend $2,000 to know if I'm making money or not.
Yeah.
Versus spending, let's say $7, $9 or $50 or $100 to know if the ads are working or not. Right now I literally have 20 to 40 more at bats, right? To really make the thing work, and a faster, tighter feedback loop that allows you to turn money faster, churn marketing budget over faster on an annualized basis. but more capital efficient in the process. So I'm like 100% with you here, but I'm curious to hear more of uh, more of your insight as to how you got there.
Yeah. So, so wait, say that last part one more time. Sorry. It's just the last 10, 15
Yeah,
seconds.
well, I just want to hear. I want to hear more about how you kind of came to that resolve, and also how you're helping some of your clients ensure that that's in place. Right? It's one of the things that you have to do is you have to kind of start manufacturing new offers, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to start splitting out offers, and that becomes difficult. Well, it's easy to do when you're selling info. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
right? It's easy to do when you're selling courses and like books and stuff, but it's more difficult to do in e-commerce.
Yeah.
It's and yeah, because then you just got to make sure that you're not taking away from the core focus of the business.
Totally. And so on the on the pricing, you're basically 100%. I totally agree. It's tough because a lot of times when someone comes to us, a lot you'll have people out there that are teaching you have to sell high ticket, like, and they're running the numbers the opposite way, right? They're like, if you have you have this many people visiting, you only need, you get one person to buy. Now you have $2,000, right? So, and they do the math, and it's like if you get one conversion and they're buying $100, it's a lot harder. But the challenge, but what they're not saying is that in order to do that, you have to get a lot of people to show up to a webinar, and spend a lot of money. Like you said, it's a big risk if it's not already a proven offer, and it's really risky. And so I've seen people all the time, like they're sort of in the fairly beginning stages, and they try running a live webinar funnel, and they're selling $1,000 to $2,000 program, and they, you could get 100 people live, which is going to be like 400 people registered, and you might not get any sales. But the next 100 people live, you might get two or three or four if it's your first one. And you might
Right.
give up on something that could have been so good, but you hadn't refined it quite yet. So that's why I agree. It's a lot sometimes less risky, and you can create that momentum when you can optimize on purchase. Anytime we can get to optimize on purchase, that's the goal. And I tell people this all the time. Like, the way the algorithm works is it they it's not just like, if you optimize on purchase, before you get any impressions, they're already narrowing your targeting down to people that have shown to buy stuff over the last 30 days or 45 days or 60 days, even in different industries. And so if we can optimize on purchase, it's a game changer. So that's why for me, I would never do a challenge. We're going to do a challenge launch, but I would never do it without a self-liquidating funnel leading up to it. So my goal is to get 2-to-1 on our ad spend before we even start the launch, before we start the first day of the challenge, because we're going to do a $5, so $5 challenge, and then a 49, and then a 99. And then actually for me, I'm going to have like a soft upsell where, hey, by the way, if you're somebody that you're actually looking to hire somebody, we've got a really amazing group. And if you want, we have an audit process, and that's another little upsell. And then, but that can be run for 6 weeks leading out to your challenge. You know what I mean? Or maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And then you do your challenge, and then you make an offer. Say we sell $1,000 program now, and then we deliver that program over 5-6 weeks. And then what I can do, what I'm going to do for us at least, we might say, hey, let's do an evergreen challenge, but it's my plan is to go to an evergreen webinar, because I've put a lot of time into building the webinar already. Like I told you, who takes 5-6 months to build a freaking webinar, by the way? Uh, but actually, what came out of it was a really, really, really amazing webinar. So that same basic webinar is what will sell that program evergreen. But for me, I'll have less risk in place, because we already flushed it out, right? We sold it through a challenge. We generated lots of customers leading into that. But if you're in like something else, if you sell on the digital product side, if you sell dance lessons or decluttering or anything like that, it's low ticket all the way. It better be under $100 or potentially even under 50 for your front end, and just get massive volume. And if you have more products, then you're going to make more money. I always tell people, if you're in a mass appeal, or even if you have physical products like that, more products equals more profit, not a membership. A membership, usually what I've seen, especially at the mass, especially if that's just another thing you have and it's not the core focus of your entire business, a general membership ends up being the opposite of the 80-20 principle, where you're spending 80% of your time on your membership and getting 20% of your revenue. That's if you're in the paid traffic world, because it's tough to generate a new member on a cold lead, right? And so more products. And same thing goes, obviously, if you have a e-commerce. In e-com, we want to really try to find that best product, that core product that we can use to drive cold traffic into, in addition to brand awareness and education-based stuff. But then we can use our other products to help improve that profit. And so yeah. So
Keith, you're a legend, man. This has been amazing. I feel like I just can mute now and you can just talk about ads for the next couple hours. We just keep diving onto it. I appreciate it, man. This has been really solid stuff. Tell everybody a little bit about how we can support you, what you're up to next, and how everybody can get in touch.
Sure, no problem. I would say that I would go to, if you want, I would probably just go to onegoodad.com. Onegoodad.com right now, that goes to our other challenge, but by the time you're listening to this, it'll probably go into the challenge I just talked about, either a free challenge or a $5 challenge. The other thing is we have a free presentation if you're somebody at a higher level and you're looking for some coaching, and you're looking for some maybe an agency to hire out. You could go to, I've got a presentation where I take people through our 4 steps to really scaling out and to really scaling out a business using multi-platform ads. And I would say step 1 is the cash flow. Step 2 is the everlasting ad. Step 3 is being able to put that into all 3, the big 3 platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, plus the Google display retargeting. And then step 4 is the maintaining and scaling, testing, optimizing, troubleshooting, scaling, rinse and repeat. That presentation, I don't even know if I think I can make everlasting ad. Go to that one. I don't know if I have a
onegoodad.com. I love this, dude. You have screenshots galore here. This is just awesome.
Yeah,
super cool, man. Well, thank you so much. You're an OG of when it comes to Facebook ads. I love it.
It's fun.
We'll definitely have you back.
Yeah, good times. I appreciate having me on.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rich Ad Poor Ad podcast. If you're like me and listen to podcasts on the go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and richadpoorad.com/podcast. And if you absolutely love the show, go ahead and leave a review and a comment, share with a friend. If you do, take a copy, screenshot of it, email me, Zach@funneldash.com, show me you left a review, and I'll give you a free copy of the Rich Ad Poor Ad book. To learn more about the book, go to richadpoorad.com. To leave a review, go to richadpoorad.com/review. Thanks again.